Tīrtha-sevayā Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Radha Madhava Saki Shivan Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. This morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 20, Conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. And because last speaker didn't read his shlokas on Saturday, I will read first these shlokas in English, and then we will chant the shloka 4 that is on the board. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So starting with the shloka 2 of the 20th chapter, translation. Śaunaka Ṛṣi inquired about Vidura, who was a great devotee and friend of Lord Kṛṣṇa, and who gave up the company of his elder brother, because the latter, along with his sons, played tricks against the desire of the Lord. Purport. The incident referred to here is that Vidura left the protection of his elder brother Dhritarashtra when traveling everywhere to sacred places and met Maitreya at Hardwar. Śaunaka Ṛṣi here inquires about the topics of the conversation between Maitreya Ṛṣi and Vidura. Vidura's qualification was that he was not only a friend of the Lord but also a great devotee. When Kṛṣṇa tried to stop the war and mitigate the misunderstanding between the cousin brothers, they refused to accept his counsel. Therefore, Kṣata or Vidura was unsatisfied with them and he left the palace. As a devotee, Vidura showed by example that anywhere that Kṛṣṇa is not honored is a place unfit for human habitation. A devotee may be tolerant regarding his own interests, but he should not be tolerant when there is a misbehavior towards the Lord or Lord's devotee. Here the word agvan is very significant, for it indicates that Kauravas, Dhritarashtra's sons, lost the war because of being sinful in disobeying the instructions of Kṛṣṇa. In Shloka 3, Vidura was born from the body of Vedavyas and was not less than he. Thus he accepted the lotus feet of Kṛṣṇa wholeheartedly and was attached to his devotees. Purport. The history of Vidura is that he was born of a Shudra mother, but his seminal father was Vyasadeva. Thus he was not less than Vyasadeva in any respect. Since he was born of a great father who was supposed to be incarnation of Narayan and who composed all the Vedic literatures, Vidura was also a great personality. He accepted Kṛṣṇa as his worshipable Lord and followed his instructions wholeheartedly. And now Shloka 4. Kim anvapṛcchan maitreyam virajās tīrtha-sevayā upagamya kuśāvarta āsīnaṁ tattva-vittamam kim anvapṛcchan maitreyam virajās tīrtha-sevayā upagamya kuśāvarta āsīnaṁ tattva-vittamam. Please chant. Word by word. Kim, what? Anvapṛcchat, inquired. Maitreyaṁ, from the sage Maitreya. Virajāḥ, Vidura, who was without material contamination. Tīrtha-sevayā, by visiting sacred places. Upagamya, having met. Kuśāvarte, at Kuśāvarta, Haridvāra. āsīnaṁ, who was abiding. Tattva-vittamam, the foremost knower of the science of spiritual life. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Vidura was purified of all passion by wandering in sacred places, and at last he reached Hardwar, where he met the great sage who knew the science of spiritual life, and he inquired from him. Śaunaka Ṛṣi therefore asked, what more did Vidura inquire from Maitreya? Purport. Here the word virajās, tīrtha-sevayā, referred to Vidura, was completely cleansed of all contamination by traveling to places of pilgrimage. In India, there are hundreds of sacred places of pilgrimage, of which Prayāga, Hardwar, Vṛndāvana and Rāmeśvaram are considered principal. After leaving his home, which was full of politics and diplomacy, Vidura wanted to purify himself by traveling to all the sacred places, which are so situated that anyone who goes there automatically becomes purified. This is especially true in Vṛndāvana. Any person may go there, and even if he is sinful, he will at once contact an atmosphere of spiritual life and will automatically chant the names of Kṛṣṇa and Rādhā. That we have actually seen and experienced. It is recommended in the Shastras that after retiring from active life and accepting the vanaprastha retired order, one should travel everywhere to places of pilgrimage in order to purify himself. Vidura completed discharged his duty, and at last he reached Kuśāvarta or Haridvāra, where the sage Maitreya was sitting. Another significant point is that one must go to sacred places not only to take bath there, but to search out great sages like Maitreya and take instructions from them. If one does not do so, his traveling to places of pilgrimage is simply a waste of time. Narottam Das Thakur, a great acharya of the Vaishnava sect, has for the present forbidden us to go to such places of pilgrimage because in this age, the times having so changed, and sincere person may have a different impression on seeing the behavior of the present residents of the pilgrimage sites. He has recommended that instead of taking the trouble to travel to such places, one should concentrate his mind on Govinda, and that will help him. Of course, to concentrate one's mind on Govinda in any place is a path meant for those who are most spiritually advanced. It is not for ordinary persons. Ordinary persons may still derive benefit from traveling to holy places like Prayāga, Mathura, Vṛndāvana and Haridvāra. It is recommending in this verse that one find a person who knows the science of God, or a tattva-vit. Tattva-vit means one who knows the absolute truth. There are many pseudo-transcendentalists even in the places of pilgrimage. Such men are always present, and one has to be intelligent enough to find the actual person to be consulted. Then one's attempt to progress by traveling to different holy places will be successful. One has to be freed from all contamination, and at the same time he has to find a person who knows the science of Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa helps a sincere person, as stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Guru Kṛṣṇa Prasade. By the mercy of the spiritual master and Kṛṣṇa, one attains the path of salvation, devotional service. If one sincerely searches for spiritual salvation, then Kṛṣṇa, being situated in everyone's heart, gives him the intelligence to find a suitable spiritual master. By the grace of a spiritual master like Maitreya, one gets the proper instruction and advances in his spiritual life. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshur-unmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatharine Panchakalpatarubhya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patithanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in these several verses that we read, we hear about Vidura's tīrtha-sevayā or tīrtha-yatra. So this is not ordinary yatra that Vidura did, not ordinary pilgrimage. It is pilgrimage that lasted quite some years. Can you guess how many years he was in a pilgrimage? 1, 2, 3? No, 36 years. According to Mahabharata, it lasted 36 years. So it was very, very long pilgrimage. So in the first chapter of the third canto, we hear about the circumstances, how actually Vidura went for this tīrtha-yatra. At the beginning of the first chapter, Maharaj Parishit, he asked Shukadeva Goswami how actually this meeting between Vidura and Maitreya happened, and then Shukadeva gives the background. He tells that, he describes how King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of his impious sons, and he didn't forbid Dushasana and other sons to offend Draupadi by grabbing her hair and trying to disrobe her. And Yudhishthira, he couldn't do anything. He was unfairly defeated in gambling. They went to the forest in exile for 14 years. And then when he came back, he begged for his rightful share in the kingdom. But Dhritarashtra, who was in Maya, he was overwhelmed by illusion, he refused. After that, Lord Krishna came and tried to convince Dhritarashtra, but that also didn't help. And then Vidura was the one who was the last who tried to preach to Dhritarashtra, and he gave him very good advice. He gave him very good advice. Am I audible? No. Hare Krishna? Okay, now it's okay. And he told him that you have to return Yudhishthir Pandava's share because you committed so many offenses to them. Lord Krishna is on their side. Aren't you afraid? But Duryodhana, he still was completely deaf. He was completely deaf. And then somehow Duryodhana happened to be there together with his brothers. And when he heard Vidura's words, he became completely swollen with anger. And his lips started trembling in anger. And then he told Vidura, who asked him to come here, this son of a kept mistress, because he was a son of a Shudrani. He is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy against those on whose support he has grown up. Basically, he's telling him that we are maintaining you and you are speaking against us. So toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him only with his bread. These are very, very harsh words directed towards the senior person. Vidura was his uncle, And so Vidura was pierced by these arrows of the harsh words. And he took it undisturbed. He took it as the providence. So he put his bow on the doorway, and without feeling sorry, he left. He left for 36 years. So where did he go after leaving the Hastinapur? It's described that he went to the many, many holy places of pilgrimage like Ayodhya, Dwaraka, Mathura, and interestingly, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Navadvipam Mahatya, he describes Vidura came to Mayapur. He left to go to Sri Mayapur. So he has traveled also here and visited all the holy places in Navadvip Mandala. So how did he travel? He simply performed duties to please the Supreme Lord. His occupation was pure and dependent. So he didn't do any materialistic activities on pilgrimage. He was simply performing devotional service, chanting, meeting the sadhus, sadhu sangha, associating with them, and hearing about Lord Krishna. This was his occupation for all these 36 years. So at one point he came, after the battle of Kurukshetra, he came to Prabhasa Kshetra, and then he learned that all of his relatives, most of his relatives, they died in Kurukshetra war. And after that, he proceeded west where the Saraswati flows, and then eventually he came to the bank of Yamuna, where he met Uddhava, who directed him to go to meet Maitreya in order to hear about Krishna. So this idea of pilgrimage, going for the pilgrimage, we find in all major world religions. In Christianity, Christians, they go to Jerusalem, the Lord Jesus Christ's birthplace. Muslims, they go to Mecca. Once in a lifetime they have to make this journey, actually. Every Muslim is supposed to do it. So the idea is to go away from our usual materialistic affairs and life situations that we are all stuck, family, wife, children, job, so many things are there and we are so busy, and in these situations it's very difficult to focus on Krishna and practice spiritual life. So that's why pilgrimage is recommended. Okay, now you've done a lot. Now you take vanaprastha and you go and give the rest of your life for Krishna only. This is the idea. And it's common, as mentioned, in all world religions. Many years ago I read one Christian book. It's called The Way of Pilgrim. It's an autobiography of anonymous pilgrim in the 19th century Russia, who goes to the church, and in church he hears commandment: one should pray without ceasing, one should pray without stopping. And somehow in his heart he gets earnest desire to learn, to pray without ceasing, to always be in God's presence. And he started traveling all over, the huge country. Russia at that time was a huge country, and trying to find the spiritual teachers who will teach him how to pray without ceasing, from one church, from one monastery to another monastery. And he finds some teachers, but none of them really know how actually to practice this, pray without ceasing, which is Kirtaniya Sadhari in essence, translated to our words. Eventually he finds a teacher who teaches him. And then he stays for some time in some kutir, in a forest, alone, and he's practicing this Jesus prayer, constantly repeating it day and night. At the beginning it's very difficult, mind is very distracted, but he has a rosary, like a japamala, and he continues and preserves, and eventually the prayer becomes natural and starts flowing naturally in the mind and the heart. And then he starts traveling across the countries, going towards Jerusalem to visit the Jesus birthplace. And he experiences many adventures on this pilgrim's progress journey. And he also experiencing the elevation of his consciousness because the prayer enters his heart, and he feels warmth and love for all living entities. And then he experiences horripilation of the hair on the skin, and trembling of the voice, and all basically Ashta-sattvika bhavas that we find in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. This person is experiencing, which is amazing. Just shows that it's not sectarian. The love of God is not sectarian, and it's really inspiring because it's from his personal experience. That person is personally going through it, and he is describing it. So this is the real reason for tīrtha-sevayā, going to the holy place, to search for Krishna. We are not going to the holy places for tourism, for sightseeing, to enjoy, and to make some photos for the Facebook, and then you put it, I was in Vṛndāvana, I was in Dvaraka, here and there. No, these are not the real reasons. And especially for us who live in the Dham, or try to live Dham for some years, it's important to become aware what are our reasons for staying here and living here, that we are not here for some materialistic reason. Otherwise, if we are here, we don't know why we are here, it will become difficult to stay for a long time. The weather will be very hot, and the mosquitoes, the crowds will be very difficult to handle. So many things, the garbage. I know people who stayed 1, 2, 3, several years in Mayapur, and eventually they said, no, we cannot stay here anymore. They found so many faults. They said, politics are going on, the roads is closed, the gate is closed, so many problems you will find because you don't know why you are here. or if you knew it, you forgot it for some reason, you lost orientation, you lost the goal. And the goal is, to make spiritual advancement, to purify yourself, to attain Krishna Prema. This is the final goal. In one purport, in the 9th canto, Srila Prabhupada describes Krishna's abode Vrindavan. I'll quote something. So he says, Krishna and his abode Vrindavan, they are not different. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanasta Dhama Vrindavanam. Vrindavan is as good as Krishna. This also applies for Mayapur, because Mayapur and Vrindavan are not different. So therefore, if one somehow or other gets the opportunity to live in Vrindavan, and if one is not a pretender, but simply lives in Vrindavan and concentrates his mind upon Krishna, one is liberated from material bondage. So simply, if you concentrate your mind while living in the Dham on Krishna, you are liberated. One mind is not purified, however, even in Vrindavan, if one is agitated by lusty desires. So this is a problem. If you stay in Vrindavan or Mayapur, but you're still nurturing these sinful desires, lusty desires, you are not purified. So one should not live in Vrindavan and commit offenses. For a life of offenses in Vrindavan is no better than the lives of monkeys and hogs there. Many monkeys and hogs live in Vrindavan, and they are concerned with their sexual desires. Men who have gone to Vrindavan but who still hanker for sex should immediately leave Vrindavan and stop their grievous offenses at the lotus feet of the Lord. There are many misguided men who live in Vrindavan to satisfy their sexual desires, but they are certainly no better than monkeys and hogs. So holy Dham, the tīrtha, is not place for sinful activities, or actually any material activities, even if they are not sinful. It's a place for purification. It's a place for establishing our connection with the higher realm, with the Goloka Vrindavan, with the Krishna in the spiritual world. And it's certainly offense if one commits sinful activities in the Dham. But luckily for us, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is more merciful than Krishna, and his Dham is more forgiving and merciful. So even if one commits offenses and mistakes, in Mayapur they are not counting. That's why it's called Niraparada Bhajana Stale. But in Vrindavan, very quickly you get reactions. I mean, you might have some experience. You did something wrong, immediately, something happens very quickly. You try to cheat something, next moment you lose your wallet. After you, so many things in Vrindavan, it's reacting very quickly. So we should not think that in Mayapur I can do sinful activities. No, eventually we'll be also punished. We'll be kicked out. This is what will happen. We'll be kicked out to the Dham. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's teaching us how to behave when we go for the pilgrimage to Vrindavan and to other holy places, other tirthas. On occasion of his close associate Jagadananda visiting Vrindavan, before he left, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave some instructions. First, he warned him to be very careful on the journey. He said, as soon as the plunderers on the road see a Bengali traveling alone, they take everything from him, arrest him, and do not let him go. So in those days, it was actually very dangerous to travel on the roads. There were many, criminals on the roads, and you had to be really praying to Krishna all the way to arrive safely. Even 20 years ago, I remember in Vrindavan, it was not advised after the dark to go to Govardhan or Radhakund by rickshaw. It was considered dangerous because there were dacoits actually. They could actually stop the rickshaw and rob you. Now I think it's okay, but those days it was dangerous. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continuing instructing Jagadananda. Then he says, when you reach Mathura, you should remain with Sanatana Goswami and offer respectful obeisances to the feet of all leading men there. So he instructing him to take shelter of a senior devotee and stay with him, not to be alone, and offer obeisances to all the sadhus living there. And then he says, do not mix freely with the residents of Mathura. Show them respect from a distance. Because you're on a different platform of devotional service, you cannot adopt their behavior and practices. I will come back to this later, just let me finish the rest of the instructions. He said, visit all the 12 forests of Vrindavan in the company of Sanatana Goswami. Do not leave his association even for a moment. So he instructs him not to go alone around. You should remain in Vrindavan only for a short time and then return here as soon as possible. Also do not climb Govardhan hill to see the Gopal deity. Inform Sanatana Goswami that coming to Vrindavan for a second time and he should arrange a place for me to stay. So Srila Prabhupada comments on this instruction not to mix with the local residents. He says, devotees on the platform of Vidhi Marga regulated devotional service may misunderstand the activities of those on the platform of Raga Marga. Devotional service is spontaneous love. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Jagadananda Pandit to remain apart from the residents of Vrindavan who were spontaneous devotees, as not to become disrespectful towards them. See, Jagadananda Pandit, he's an eternal associate of Mahaprabhu. He's Satyabhama herself. Definitely he is on the level of Raga Marga. He's a Ragatmika Bhakta. But still, just to teach us, to teach regular devotees, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing him like this. Do not mix too much with those who do not follow the rules and regulations very strictly. So, we cannot say that everybody living in the Dham is Raganuga Bhakta, but still there might be some, so we should be careful not to freely mix and have a respect from a distance to the Dhamvasis, whatever they may appear to be. So this is the proper way to go to Vrindavan, stay for a short time, and come back. And in Mayapur, it's a similar practice, but actually in Mayapur we can stay longer. And we are all trying to reside here in Mayapur Dham. And those who manage to overcome the initial difficulties, they find some purpose. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to stay for a long time. I know one devotee he was from Europe. He was already an elderly man. And he came and he stayed in Krishna Balaram Mandir for some years. I think maybe 15 years at least. He lived there, served as a brahmachari, as a vanaprastha. His family was already grown up. His sons were grown up. They were all devotees, but he came and he joined Krishna Balaram and he lived there for a long time. And then at one point, there was some problem with his visa. The officers from Mathura came and they said, oh, your visa is not valid. You'll get the punishment, the fine, this, that. And he got very scared. And he didn't want to cause problem to the temple because he thought, well, if I'm without the visa, they will give problem to temple authorities. So I better leave. But he didn't want to go back to Europe. He said, no, this is my last days, and I want to stay in Vrindavan till that. So he just left somewhere in Vraj, in some village, and nobody could find it. He basically disappeared. And his family, his sons, that was many years ago. They never got the news what happened to him. I think because he was already sick and very old, he just left and passed away in some village unknowingly to anybody. This was his determination, his attachment to leave the body in the Dham and not go back to the West. And this was the proper way, although he didn't really need to do this. Temple would actually take care of him. He was too much afraid, but still, he gloriously, passed away in Vrindavan Dham. So, coming to the Dham means meeting holy persons, meeting sadhus. This is the most important aspect of visiting the holy place. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Lord goes to South Indian Yatra, it's described how on the plea of the visiting of holy places, the Lord converted many thousands of residents and delivered them. Simply by touching the holy places, He made them into the great places of pilgrimage. And then Srila Prabhupada describes in the Purport, he says, it is said, tīrthi kurvanti tīrthani. A tīrtha or a holy place is a place where great saintly personalities visit or reside. Although the holy places were already places of pilgrimage, they were all purified by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's visit. Many people go to these holy places and leave their sinful activities there, thus becoming free from contamination. When these contaminations pile up, they are counteracted by the visit of the great personalities like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his strict followers. Many kinds of patients come to a hospital which may be infected by many types of diseases. Actually, the hospital is always infected, but the expert physician keeps the hospital sterilized by his expert presence and management. Similarly, places of pilgrimage are always infected by the sins left by the sinners who go there. But when a personality like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visits such a place, all contaminations vanish. So this is the glory of the holy place. The holy persons residing there, they are purifying even the holy places. Regular people, they just come and leave their sins. And that's why the holy place becomes overburdened by the sins. But when the sadhus come, when the sadhus live in the holy place, they purify the holy place and they benefit all the visitors of the holy place. So this was exactly what Maharaj Yudhishthira told to Vidura when he came back from his 36 years of tirtha yatra. Maharaj Yudhishthira told him, Bhavad Vida Bhagavatas tīrtha bhuta swayam vibhot tīrti kurvanti tīrtani svantastena gadhabrita. He told to Vidura, his uncle, my dear Lord, devotees like your good self are verily holy places personified. Because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart, you turn all places into places of pilgrimage. And Srila Prabhupada comments, he says, the personality of Godhead is omnipresent by his diverse potencies everywhere, just as the power of electricity is distributed everywhere within space. Similarly, the Lord's omnipresence is perceived and manifested by his unalloyed devotees like Vidura, just as electricity is manifested in an electric bulb. A pure devotee like Vidura always feels the presence of the Lord everywhere. He sees everything in the potency of the Lord and the Lord in everything. So the holy places all over the earth are meant for purifying the polluted consciousness of a human being by an atmosphere surcharged with the presence of Lord's unalloyed devotees. So this is important. What is the purpose of the holy places, all the tirthas around the world, and especially in Bharatavarsha, for purifying our polluted consciousness. And atmosphere in the holy places is surcharged by the presence of the Lord's devotees. The Lord's devotees made the holy place holy. So Prabhupada continues, if anyone visits a holy place, he must search out the pure devotees residing in such holy places, take lessons from them, try to apply such instructions in practical life, and thus gradually prepare oneself for the ultimate salvation, going back to Godhead. To go to some holy place of pilgrimage does not mean only to take bath in the Ganges or Yamuna or to visit temples situated in those places. So pilgrimage, tirtha yatra is not meant only for having a darshan and bathing in Ganga or Yamuna. No. One should find also representatives of Vidura who have no desire in life save and except to serve the personality of Godhead. The personality of Godhead is always with such pure devotees because of their unalloyed service, which is without any tinge of fruitive action or utopian speculation. They are in the actual service of the Lord, specifically by the process of hearing and chanting. The pure devotees hear from the authorities and chant and sing and write the glories of the Lord. So Mahamuni Vyasa heard from Narada and then he chanting and writing. Shukadeva Goswami studied from his father and he described it to Parikshit. So in this way, Prabhupada describes that devotees, pure devotees, they are able to rectify the polluted atmosphere of any place. And what to speak of a holy place? Holy place is rendered unholy by the questionable actions of interested persons who try to adapt a professional life at the cost of the reputation of a holy place. This is another point, that in holy place you will find many materially motivated persons who want to do business there or to earn some money and to make a profession by living in the holy dham. But actually the holy dham is not meant for this purpose. Okay, somehow we are living here, we need to maintain ourselves, but it has the limits. When you make one building and second and third and fourth and fifth and you make crores and crores and you continue doing business, that means you are here because of the business. You're not here because of the holy place and purifying yourself. So idea of going and living in the holy place is to get away from our material situation, material consciousness. That's why Vanaprastha, they're supposed to go to the forest, and in this age of Kali, forest means going to Vṛndāvana forest, Vṛndāvana or Mayapur, and finding there the association of the devotees or saintly persons. So there are many holy places in Bharatavarsha, Ayodhya, Mathura, Haridvāra, Dwaraka, Badrinath, Puri, Rameshwaram, Srirangam, Tirupati, Holavam, Udupi. And then in Gaudiya Vaishnavas we have 3 special holy places. It's Vṛndāvana Dham, Jagannath Puri Dham, and Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham. And they have special potency. So who actually lives in the dham? Many mosquitoes and animals and people who are not devotees, they also live the dham. But do they really live in the dham? No, they live on the surface of the dham. Dham is covered by thick layer of maya. So those whose consciousness is completely materialistic, they don't really live in the dham. They live on the surface of the dham. People who live in the dham, they are Krishna conscious. You have to be Krishna conscious to really live in a dham, in a holy, in a true sense. So there can be many reasons for our coming to live in the dham. Social, because we need to send children to the school, or many people come, especially from villages, for economic reasons, because ISKCON is big here, we can get a job, do this, do that. But these are not really spiritual reasons. And if we come and live here because of these material reasons, many things will chase us away. If the things do not go very smoothly, if the weather is very harsh, if the crowd is very big, it's too hot, sooner or later we'll be forced to leave, if we have somewhere to live. Those who are already in India, they say, okay, we are in India. But those who come from this, some nice place in the West, for example, they'll think, oh, it's much nicer and more comfortable there, let me go back to my country. But then why did you come in the first place? So it means that they didn't have a proper motivation. Proper motivation is needed in order to be able to tolerate little difficult circumstances in the dham. So we are here to search for Krishna, to purify ourselves, to prepare for our next life. This is our main purpose, actually, main motivation for being here. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Navaridham Mahatmya, he describes the glories of Mayapur, and we should hear about these glories in order to actually become aware that we are actually living in the embassy of the spiritual world. It's not ordinary place. We should have this consciousness. So he quotes Garuda Purana, where it says, in the age of Kali, the devotees will abandon the service of other holy places and live either in Vrindavan or Navadvip. And then in the Skanda Purana, the Lord says, they who in the age of Kali take shelter of Mayapur and worship me become free from all sins and attain the supreme destination. So this is our main business in the Dham, worship of the Lord, especially in the form of Nam Kirtan and Nam Sankirtan. This is our main business. And Bhagavat Shravana, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a place of most merciful incarnation, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna Varnatvisha Krishnam, Sangom Pagastra Parshadam, Yagyai Sankirtana Prayer, Yajantihi Sumedasaha. So worship him by the Sankirtan Yagya, by living in his holy Dham. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, the glories of other holy places are present hundreds and millions of times over in Navadvip in age of Kali. Yesterday we had the Radhashtami, holy day of appearance of Srimati Radharani, and who created Navadvip Dham? It was Radharani who created Navadvip Dham between the Ganges and Yamuna. It's described there in the Shastra, also in the Navadvip Mahatmya. So while living in the Dham, we should be aware to avoid committing Dhamma paradas, offenses to the holy Dham. They are summarized in Navadvip Mahatmya by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I'll just quickly go through them. 10 offenses. First one, disrespecting Sri Guru and the sadhus who are the revealers of the Dham. So Vaishnavas and the Sri Guru, they reveal the Dham. If you disrespect them, you offend the Dham. Second offense is to consider the Dham temporary, to think it is just an ordinary place like anywhere else, like New York, London, or some other place. No, it's a spiritual place, coming directly from Goloka. Then third offense, harming the residents and visitors of the Dham or judging them by their birth. committing violence towards those who live here, physically, even towards animals. Sometimes we think, oh, it's good to hit the dogs and this and that. No. Fourth offense, residing in the Dham and engaging in mundane activities. This is exactly what we spoke about. In mundane materialistic activities. You live here and you live anywhere else, you do materialistic activities. Fifth, earning money by or making a business of a deity worship on the pretext of serving the Dham. This is a common practice, especially in Vṛndāvana. Everybody and anybody opens a temple, puts a donation box, and he wants to earn money by worshipping the deity, by living the Dham. But it's considered offense. 6. Considering the Dham equal to places of the demigods or some material land. So the holy Dham, like Mayapur, it's higher than any place in Swarga, higher than Amaravati, Indra's, city, or higher than Brahmaloka even. So if we consider, oh, this is, filthy, dirty place, I cannot bear it here anymore, we are committing offense. 7. Considering that one can sin and be absolved because one resides in the Dham. So if I think I can do anything, everything, any sort of civil activities by living the Dham, I'm committing Dhammaparada. That's why Prabhupada gave us 4 regulative principles, and we should be very strict in following them, especially in the Dham, especially in the Dham. 8. Considering Navadvip different from Vrindavan, this is offense. They are not different. They are like 2 rooms of the same house with different moods. One is Madhurya, Vrindavan is Madhurya, and Audharya is predominant in Mayapur. 9th, criticizing the scriptures that glorify the Dham. Like Navadvip Mahatma is one scripture that glorifies the Dham. There are some Puranas who glorify the Dhams. If we criticize them, again, Dhammaparada. And 10, the last one, considering the glories of the Dham exaggerated, praise, or imaginary. So it's similar, like, consider the glories of the holy name exaggerated. So similarly, if we consider the glories of the Dham exaggerated, we are committing offense. So we should be very careful not to commit these offenses. And in order to continue living the Dham, we should introspect our motives for visiting and staying in the Dham. We should be very clear that we are here because we want to make a progress in Krishna consciousness. We want to purify ourselves and we want to attain pure love for Krishna. We are not here for any other material benefit. We should be very clear with that. So this is just some thoughts that I had on these verses. We have just a couple more minutes if you have any comment or question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisance. Thank you very much for this wonderful class. Prabhu, as you mentioned that if we commit dham aparadh in Dham, so I heard from many senior devotees that if we go to Vrindavan Dham for some parikrama or yatra, then I heard that the aparadhs could be considered for the 3 days only. But if you stay more than 3 days, then that sinful reactions you will get. So I was a little bit confused. So could you please clarify? Hare Krishna.
Well, yeah, I didn't hear about these 3 days, but a recommendation is there to stay for a short time, because shorter you are, less opportunity to commit sinful activities you have. If you stay longer and longer, the mind gets more and more crazy, and more chances there to commit sinful activities. But if you go even for 3 days, in these 3 days you manage to commit sinful activity, you get a reaction. It's not that you are free just by running away immediately. Instruction is there to go away, not to commit offense again. This is the reason. Otherwise, you will get sinful reaction instantly. This was my realization in Vrindavan. Small things, you get in fight with a rickshaw driver, somebody steals your wallet next time because you were harsh towards the rickshaw drivers. Very instantly in Vrindavan you get. Somehow the Vrindavan Dhan is alive, and it's a living entity, and it responds. And also responds to good activities, to the bhakti, to devotion, by rewarding you, by opening you the ways, by welcoming you. You feel that Vrindavan Dham is welcoming you when you come in. But if you commit bad things, Vrindavan Dham is punishing you. So we should be very, very careful. Either Vṛndāvana or Mayapur. Although Mayapur is more merciful because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is more merciful, but we should be also very careful here. We can be forgiven if we commit sinful activity once, but if we just keep continuing again and again, rest assured will be punished. You cannot misuse it. Okay, by some weakness you commit a mistake, you can be forgiven once, but if you continue doing it, then no forgiveness. Okay, is there anything else? Yes, Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. I wanted to ask, how do we know that we are staying in the dham in the correct mood as it is supposed to be? How do we understand that?
We can easily say by what are we doing while we are here. Are we just watching, YouTube and reading newspaper? This is certainly something that's not very conducive for staying the dham. But if we are engaging in, hearing the Bhagavatam, attending temple programs, chanting our rounds very carefully, engaging in Nam Sankirtan and Nam Kirtan, this is the proper way to stay in the dham. And naturally, by taking part in these devotional activities, our consciousness will be lifted and we'll be in the proper consciousness. So we just have to be careful what we do while we are in the dham. And we should also be careful not to offend others, other devotees especially, because this will, cause Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to become displeased with us, and then we will lose the mercy of staying in the dham. So basically just engage as much as possible in chanting, hearing, reading, visiting the temples, hearing the glories of the dham. This is the proper way to stay in the dham.
So, is there any specific thing we need to do if we know, okay, we have offended some devotees, especially in Vrindavan?
If we offend devotees in Vrindavan or anywhere else, we should go and ask forgiveness. This is the basic. You need to ask forgiveness. You need to apologize, to touch the feet and please, but generally from the heart, I really didn't want to do this. Somehow I said this or that. Please forgive me. We should feel, remorse generally and ask forgiveness, and then we'll be forgiven. Otherwise, if we don't ask, it's very difficult to be forgiven if you don't ask. We should recognize that we committed offense and mistakes. But sometimes the ego doesn't let us, I think, why should I apologize? He should apologize. No, you apologize first. Then his heart will be also changed and he will also apologize. But you come first and you apologize first.
Thank you.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. My question is that if somebody has already earned his living, he has amassed enough sufficient wealth to continue further, is it recommended for that person to come to Dham and continue his living further?
What is his motivation? If he's coming to the Dham just to make business out of the Dham, better not to come, because he will commit offenses. Better not to come. If he already has enough, what is the need to continue in the materialistic consciousness of making more and more money and live in the Dham? No, you come here to purify yourself. Now you have enough. Now it's time for anvapṛcchan. Now it's time to focus your mind on Kṛṣṇa. Now it's time to give the rest of your life to Kṛṣṇa, to prepare for the next life. Otherwise, it's very foolish to continue earning till your last day. What will be your consciousness when you pass away? Either in Mayapur or somewhere else, your consciousness will be money consciousness, and then you'll be born as what? Banker or something, or some animal who is just collecting more and more. You have to be aware, as devotees, we are educated. We hear so many things that we have to prepare for the next journey. This is man's next life, and the Dham is giving us perfect opportunity for this. It's a preparation for journey back home, back to Godhead. If we don't prepare in the last stage of life, last 20 years, for example, or 30 years, or whatever we have left, 10 years, we don't know how many years we have left. Maybe we have only 1, 2, 3 years. We never know. So why not become serious, especially if your living is not a problem, if you already have enough to live comfortably, why you need more? But sometimes people think, I need to secure my children and my grandchildren and this and that. Don't worry, they will secure themselves. They have their own karma. You don't need to secure all your descendants to the 5th generation. No, just give your time to Krishna. Save yourself first. Save yourself. Otherwise, if you don't save yourself, you lost everything. What is the use of your wealth? What is the use? Nobody can help you. And anybody had anything else on this? Yes, Prabhu.
Krishna, thank you for the wonderful class. Just as you say, Vṛndāvana and Navadvip and Mayapur are non-different. There are 2 rooms in the same house, but with different moods. Can you just briefly elaborate on these 2 different moods, just the differences of these moods?
Yeah, we don't have much time, just very concisely. Madhurya is the mood that is predominant. The mood of sweetness is what is predominating Sri Vṛndāvana Dham. It's mood that when you are enchanted with the Krishna's beauty, with his flute playing, and with the relationship between Krishna and virajās. This is the madhurya that is present and predominating Vṛndāvana Dham. In Navadvip, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood and mood of Navadvip Dham is audharya, magnanimity, means giving mercy to others, wanting to save everybody, wanting everybody else. Not only you to get purified and go back to Godhead, you want everybody else to get the mercy and go back to Godhead together. Magnanimity. This is the difference. Just the mood is different. Otherwise, in tattva, they're not different. So that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood is preach. Wherever you are, try to give mercy to others. Try to bring others and give in Krishna. So this is his mood, and it's the mood of Mayapur Dham. That's why we are building this big temple to attract more and more people to come to get the mercy. So this is the mood of Mayapur Dham. And if we can relate to that mood, we will connect with the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I think we have.
Thank you.
We have to stop here. Thank you all very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.